One of the ongoing challenges of chip carving is both coming up with and then actually putting together a design for a project that you're working on. So I wanted to sit down and go through step by step what that process looks like for me in this project that I'm working on here. So this is a 12-inch plate that I'm going to be setting up as a wedding plate, and this is the first step that I always do, is take a picture of the project that I have so I know the exact shape of this particular one, and then I will design the pattern here on my computer overlaid the actual project that I'm doing. So I've done a number of wedding plates before, and I'm looking to do something a little bit new with this one. Most of mine before include the first and last name of the couple, or rather the first names of the couple getting married and then the date of their wedding. But I want this one to include the last name as well. And so this is a new plate that I haven't used before. It's got a narrower rim with a wider inside. So we'll put together a new pattern for this one. In most of my wedding plates I've done with this scalloped edge, I've done this sort of pattern as a border around it. But again, looking to do something a little bit different, and so we'll get started here. The first thing I know I want is a circle to outline this rim. So draw this circular shape here, center that up on the inside rim, just like that. And now this is the part that gets a little bit tedious. I want an outline to follow this scallop shape here. So I'll use this tool, and basically I'll just zoom in so I can follow it more closely, and then just use the mouse to follow the outline, just like this. And this is just kind of a rough draft. I'm going to actually redo this portion by hand. I found that for these scalloped rim plates, they're not super precise, not very easy to do on the computer, so I'll end up doing this by hand. So this border part is just going to be kind of a rough idea to show me what it's going to be like. So continue that all the way around. Okay, so now you can see I've got my circle around the inside. I've got that outline following the contour of the outside to give me this full set of my border around the plate. Now, what I want to do is create kind of some fan shapes that are coming out like this. So again, going to zoom in and create these kind of curvy shapes that come in like this, and they'll meet in there like that. And again, just go around and do approximately that same thing. And again, these don't need to be very perfect. This is just to help me figure out my design process and see what it's going to look like overall once, kind of get an idea once it's done. Okay, so again, here we can see what that process looks like all done with these different segments built out that I can start to work with. So now I'll go around in each one and build out that fan shape that I'm looking for. So take this outside one, bring that right down to the middle, and then take another one a little bit higher. If you get those all at the same point, they're going to be very difficult to carve. You'll get some chip out, tearing of grain and whatnot. So as I bring them more toward the middle, I also have them meet up a little bit higher away from where the last one came to the middle. So I'll do that same pattern there all the way around. Alright, just about done with the border. Now the last thing is these gaps between the fan shapes that I need to figure out what I want to do with that. kind of a standard chip carving pattern is leaves. They're nice because they're regular, they don't have to be perfect, each one can be a little bit different and it still looks good that way. And it gives it a nice natural feel to work well with the wood. So that's what I'm going to go with on this one. Let me get an idea here, kind of figure out what my leaf is going to look like. I'm going to have two of them that'll be generally symmetrical, that meet in the middle. So we'll have this one kind of follow along the contour here and come right down to this point. And if I have a normal leaf shape like this, it's going to give me a pretty big gap here that I would like to avoid. So I have a little bit of creativity here and kind of bring a little bit of a bigger lobe down there like that, and then swoop it up and meet just like that. And we'll do that same thing on this side. Give it that kind of bigger belly right there again. And making sure these lines aren't too straight. You want it to have a nice organic free-flowing feel. And then to make them look like leaves, throw the veins in here. Throw just a couple little embellishments like this to get a feel for what it looked like. Again, I'm not going to be applying this pattern directly. I'll be redrawing these by hand, so this is just to give me the impression of what it'll look like once it's carved. So, time to add that all the way around. Okay, and there we have the border done. We can see the leaves work well here to fill in between the fan shapes, and they will be raised, so all this stuff here between and will be carved out, and this line will be carved out, so there'll be a nice contrast between the peaks of the fans and the flat area on the leaf surfaces there. Now for the inside part, I know that I want to include the first names of the bride and groom, so I'll put this little curvy text tool here, and their names are Eric and Grace. That's a little bit bigger than I want, so I can move this around until they're the right size. And what I do at this point is highlight the text, and I can just switch around, go through all the fonts that I have on my computer here and see which one has the right feel that I'm going for and that matches with the style of these leaves and whatever else I have coming up. So for this one, I'm going to pick this Deloise here. And so now this is a bit too small for the size of the plate, so I can just take the font size here, grow that a bit until that's the size I want. And I'll be playing with these as I go, as I figure out the rest of the pattern, but that'll be good for now. And then I want to put the date on the bottom, so we'll do the same thing down here. And then I can flip that inside out and rotate this around so that I can put the font upside down at the bottom here. And their wedding date is August 29th. And so there we have the names and the date, same font, and on a nice circle around the inside, just like we want. So now I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the middle. I know that I want to add the last name, and I think really right across the middle in a larger font is probably going to be what I want to go with here. But to start with, select circle and just make a circle here to kind of figure out how I can format that. And you see this date is a little bit off center, so there we go. Get that lined up to look nice. And that circle is probably about the right size. Leaves good space around the text that I can carve those out, but still gives me room to work with on a design in there. So next, in order to make room for the name in the middle, I'll take a line tool here, draw that straight across, and then I'll do the same thing down here. And so that gives me this gap in the middle that I can write the name in. And I actually want the name to be bigger than the circle. I want to expand out wider than that. So I can just come in here and erase the rest of that circle. And so now I've got basically two semicircles that line up as though they're part of a circle. And then I can figure out what I'm going to do in there. So the next thing is to add the name in the middle here. Their last name is Peterson. And so again, I'll do that same process of going through all the different fonts here to figure out what I want. In this case, the one I want is actually right here, the next one, Desmodona. Make this as wide as I want the name to be. And then, again, increase that font size. This is getting a bit taller than I want, so I can make it smaller again and then increase the spacing between the letters so that it spreads it out a little bit more but keeping the same vertical space that I want. So that looks pretty good. And now I can work on these inner semicircles. And since I want the top and the bottom semicircles to be the same, I really only need to work in one, and then I'll just copy and paste that onto the bottom. So I can just get rid of this bottom one right for now. Alright. Now for this top semicircle, I think I want to carry on this leaf motif that I've got in the border, but I don't want it to be exactly that same leaf. There's a lot of those in the border, so I want some kind of different leaf style, something bolder that's more a main part of the design here. So what I think I'm going to do is break up this semicircle into 3 segments. So if I select that, and I can duplicate it, and then just slide that over until this meets right in the middle. And then I can do the same thing this way. Again, have those join in the middle there, and I've got 3 nice even sections here that I can work with. And again, since I'm done with, don't need those outer parts, I can just go ahead and erase those. Okay, so this is looking pretty good so far. Helps break up the shape a little bit so I can just deal with smaller sections at a time. So for this one, I think I want to fill this up completely with a leaf design again. So I'll go back to my drawing tool, and this shape works nicely to just have 3 different leaves, one coming out each of these points. So I'll find approximately the middle here and just kind of draw a little freeform leaf, generally filling up this space that I've given myself. Do that same thing. And then another leaf, again, similar to the border. I want to make sure that kind of comes up and fills up this space. I don't want a huge gap that I have to deal with. So there we have those 3 leaves, and normally I would do the same style of throwing some veins in here, just like this, and that looks good. But for this design, I'm actually going to do these leaves in an old world style, where there's just a single groove that runs down the middle naturally. So that'll kind of act as a little bit of a vein that I don't need to draw the pattern on. So I'll leave that off for now, and we'll actually call that good. That's pretty close to what it's going to look like. Maybe I can put those veins. Okay. Now, for these outside parts, I don't want to do just more leaves. I think it would be too much if I filled these all up with more leaves. So I like rosettes, and so I think it would be an interesting idea if I actually had 4 smaller rosettes. I usually just have the one big one, but I could do 4 small rosettes in each of these little areas that I'm going to have. So let me go ahead and look through. I have this actual library of rosette patterns that I've done in the past, and so I can just kind of peruse through and see which of these looks good. And since they're small, they need to be pretty simple. I wouldn't be able to do anything like this because of how small they are. So actually this pattern here is going to be a nice simplicity, easy to carve, small, but still I think look good. So we'll go ahead and paste that right in here, line it up, and then I can scale that down to fit right in here. Then line that up so it just touches all the edges, just like that. So then I will paste that same design over here, get that lined up. Okay, so now all I have left are these small pointy kind of crescent areas in between each of those, and I think I'll go ahead and try doing another 3 leaf shape like I have in here, but obviously it'll be a different form in that different shape recess here. But I'll follow that same idea, is kind of find about the middle here. I'll note that. And so again, take the outside part of my leaf, generally follow that outer shape, and then come to that middle point, and then take the other side and match that up. They're all made up right here in the middle. And the same deal with the other ones. This is going to be an old world style where this is all one facet here. And same with the leaves. So they'll just have this center groove that naturally runs down the middle here. Get a feel for what that'll look like. Just like that. So now, in order to make sure they're all the same, I can go ahead and select these 3 leaves, paste those, swap it around horizontally, and then just lay that right in there like that. Then I can do the same thing on the other side. Throw that in. So these aren't lining up quite perfectly. I didn't get my lines all exactly the same, but that's okay. This was kind of a first draft here. Give me a good picture of what it'll look like, and I can come back and touch this up. later before I make the actual pattern. So one more here. Get that in there. Let me go ahead and make that a little bit smaller just so that it kind of fits in there better for now. Yeah, I'll go with that. So this is generally what it is going to look like. Okay, so now the only thing left to do is duplicate this semicircle. And then let me flip that over, drop it down, and there we have it. We've got the leaf motifs surrounding the small rosettes with the larger leaves, and the big bold last name in the middle. So that's my process for both how I come up with patterns as well as how I design them here on the computer. And then as far as application, what I do is I print them out on a laser printer, and then I have a hot tool that's kind of like a soldering iron but with a flat part, and then I can use that to apply, and you get these lines on the wood for carving out. So that makes my patterns very consistent, very even, and also very reproducible if I want to do the same thing again or get an order for the same design. Hope this was helpful.